Now, Ibrahim's uncle, Azar, took him. Ibrahim was an orphan, so Ibrahim's paternal uncle took him and hid him in a cave. And Ibrahim's uncle was a close ally of the tyrant of the time, of the Nimrod. So he told him, he waited until Ibrahim was 10 years old, and he told the Nimrod, he said, I hid my nephew, and I'm going to bring him to you. And the Nimrod was enraged at the beginning, but because they were friends, he said, okay, as long as you guarantee that he will not cause problems for us, I know you have been a loyal subject, I'm not going to do anything to Ibrahim. So when they brought Ibrahim out, Ibrahim was very close to that tyrant dynasty. Now keep that in mind. And we know the story how Ibrahim a.s. at that young age started challenging the people of his time, challenging them with very, very smart questions, where he ends up destroying their idols. They end up throwing him in a fire, and he survives the fire, and he becomes one of the greatest prophets of all times and the Imam of all of mankind from his time and on, as the Quran indicates. Now, that story by itself, remember that Ibrahim alayhi salam had wisdom at a very young age. Now, the events that the Quran tells us about take place around his age of 10 years and on. Even at that age, great wisdom and great eloquence and a great ability to debate for the truth. But yet he survived. And the second thing is that he was very close to the tyrant family. Now we move on. Every prophet, every major prophet, I should say, had a similar story. Musa alayhi salam. Now the pharaohs, remember, the pharaohs were idol worshippers or self worshippers. But some of the pharaohs were actually monotheists. They believed in one God. They certainly had some prophecies, and they certainly knew that a child, a descendant of the children of Israel, a descendant of specifically Jacob and on, would be born who would signal the end of the Pharaoh's dynasty. So they amazingly have the same kind of order where they would decide to kill all or the oldest of every Israeli family or Jewish family, because they think if they do that, then their dynasty will be the dynasty that will rule the world forever. And then we know the story how Musa alayhi salam was thrown in the Nile in a little basket, and how he floated around, and subhanallah, how the Pharaoh's family fetches him out of the water and they end up raising him. A very similar story to Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then we know how he challenged the Pharaoh, and in one of the discussions that the Quran actually shares with us is that the Pharaoh says to Musa alayhi salam, haven't we brought you up as a child? And the mother of the Pharaoh is the one who took care of Musa alayhi salam. So amazing story, amazing similarities of the two stories if you really focus on them. And Musa alayhi salam, like all prophets from his childhood, undoubtedly had wisdom, except the Quran doesn't convey that he did. If we take Isa alayhi salam, a similar story, although not quite the same. During that time, there was a council that was created by the Romans for the various Jewish sects to control the temple. That's called the Sanhedrin. Everyone anticipated the coming of a new prophet who would be the Messiah. Everybody, the Sanhedrin, the Jewish scholars, the family of Imran alayhi salam, to the point that the wife of Imran makes a nether, she makes a vow that whatever she's carrying when she was pregnant would be a servant of the temple. Now, the Sanhedrin was hoping that it would be one of them, but they quickly realized that it wasn't. And what did they do? So, subhanallah, Isa alayhi salam, Maryam alayhi salam went into the temple, which is Masjid al-Aqsa today, and they gave her a room on the side because she was a woman. You know, remember the Quran, when the wife of Imran was pregnant, she said, Ya Allah, I vow that whatever I'm carrying will be a servant of yours. نَذَرْتُ لَكَ مَا فِي بَطْنِي مُحَرَّرًا. And what that meant in that law at the time is that would-be born child would be a servant of the temple. Now when the child was born, and it was a woman, a girl, who was Maryam alayhi salam, the wife of Imran said, Ya Allah, I gave birth to a girl, and a girl is not like a boy, because a boy can't serve in the temple, while the girl cannot. Yet, you know, a discussion Imran had with the Sanhedrin, he convinced them to, because a vow is a nadhr, and you know, Jews of that time, and still many of them do, believe that a nadhr should be fulfilled, just like Muslims. So they agreed to build a room for Maryam alayhi salam in the temple, where she can stay by herself. And we know the story how the angel used to come to her and bring her food. She was 12 years old when she gave birth to Isa alayhi salam. So Isa alayhi salam grows up in the midst of the people who would want to kill him, the Sanhedrin. The truth is, the Romans didn't really care about Isa alayhi salam, because they weren't believers in Abrahamic religions, they weren't believers in Judaism, and the religion of Isa alayhi salam, Nazarene, wasn't yet announced. So to them, he was just another Jewish child in their minds that was born. Although Islam refuses to call him a Jew, Islam calls him a submitter to Allah as a Muslim. But by lineage, he was a descendant of Jacob from the side of his mother. Yet they are the ones who he grows up inside them and in between them, and they are the ones who conspire to kill him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves him, takes him up to heaven. Similar story. Allah saves Ibrahim alayhi salam, saves Musa alayhi salam, saves Isa alayhi salam. Ibrahim fulfilled his mission, Musa alayhi salam fulfilled his mission, Isa alayhi salam fulfilled the first phase of his mission. He'll come back to finish his mission. Amazingly, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born in the midst of the people who would want to, at the end, try to kill him. And they tried to kill him. The first time that they tried to kill him, that is well recorded in history actually, was when he was asleep in his own house, and they the Quraysh sent a gang of 40 men led by a famous person who later became a companion by the name of Khalid ibn al-Walid. So Khalid was the head of the tyrants who came to kill the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him. We know the story when Imam Ali alayhi salam slept in the Prophet's bed, and when Khalid and others saw that it was Imam Ali alayhi salam, they all fled. They all ran away. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and he lives on to be the greatest prophet of all times, the master of prophets and messengers sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. So the Abbasids had the same exact story. They knew that the 12th Imam would be born. He would be born to this family, this blessed family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the descendants of Ali and Zahra alayhim salatu wassalam, and they surrounded the house of the 11th Imam with soldiers, and that's why he's called the Hassan, the Imam of the soldiers. That means he was surrounded by soldiers. Now, Imam Askari alayhi salam became the Imam when he was 18 years old. That's the most famous story. Some stories say that he was 22, but the more accurate one says that he was 18 years old. And he became Shaheed when he was 28, so he was an Imam for 10 years. Now, brothers and sisters, I want you to listen to, just pay attention to this. He was 18 years old, let's say 20 years old, when he had immense wisdom, he had so many followers, he had the superpower of the time surrounding him and intending to kill him, and he performed so many miracles. Our Imams alayhi salam have the same story. Imam Rida alayhi salam had debates with the leaders, the patriarchs of all religions of his time, the best in the world. They're well recorded in a book called Al-Ihtijaj. Al-Ihtijaj. The book is available today. You can. I believe, I don't know if it's translated into English. It should be, but it's an immensely important book. The Imam alayhi salam debated when he was 22 years old with all of those leaders. You see, Ma'mun wanted to embarrass the Imam because he was becoming really popular. And Ma'mun's lieutenants and secretaries kept trying to embarrass the Imam alayhi salam, so people would say, you know, this man couldn't be the heir to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He couldn't be the carrier of the message forward. So ad hocly, on the spot, they would bring the most eloquent scholars of Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Zoroastrians, Jews, atheists, called Zanadiqa in Arabic at the time. Atheism was very, very strong during the Abbasid time, and they had some of the most eloquent debaters. So they would bring him to the Imam, and the Imam alayhi salam, if you read the book and you see how eloquent and how knowledgeable he is about not only about every book of those nations, but about their hidden knowledge, about what they study in their secret compartments and secret chambers, and he would come back and he would debate with them, and you know, read those debates and see how knowledgeable the Imam alayhi salam, and you're mesmerized. But we forget that he was 22 years old, a young man, 22 years old. Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, during his time, not many people know this, during this time, the Hanafi Sunni madhab was at its peak in Iraq. Egypt was Shafi'i, Iraq was Hanafi. They didn't like the Hanbalis, and the Hanafis had Baghdad, basically, which was the seat of the superpower of the time. It was the Washington, D.C. of today. The Imam alayhi salam was besieged, and in fact he was thrown in jail. Yet during his time, through his work with his disciples, his Shias, most of the key figures of Hanafis, Sunni Muslims in Iraq became Shias. Vast numbers of people became Shias. Why? It's because the Imam knew how to guide them through the debates. Imam al-Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam has a long, long letter where he uses Sunni sources to prove the righteousness of the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. He uses actually a method that is followed by many scholars today to debate for the righteousness of Shia Islam. And during the 10 years, remember he became a shaheed when he was 28 years old. I mean, imagine us, the older people, you know, thinking of a 22-year-old, with all due respect to our sons and daughters out there, having the leadership of humanity on his shoulders, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving them immense knowledge and immense wisdom with it. The Imam alayhi salam, at that young age, had a number of miracles. I know we're coming up to half an hour, but I'll mention a couple of them. One, he had a companion by the name of Ja'far al-Sharif, who came to him in Samarra to visit him. After visiting him, Ja'far al-Sharif said, Imam, I'm going to a city that was called Astar Abad. I think today it's called Jurjan in Iran, in northern Iran, and Iranian brothers. Astar Abad. Gurgan, okay. There you go. There comes my Arabic brother, say Jawad, you know. right? So anyway, it was Astar Abad at the time. He said, I'm going to Astar Abad. The Imam alayhi salam told him, you will arrive there at this specific day, a Friday. You will enter the city in the morning. As soon as you enter the city, gather my Shias and tell them that I will come that afternoon and visit them. Now, Jafar al-Sharif knew that this is the Imam. He didn't ask him, you don't have a private jet. You don't have, how are you going to travel from Samarra in Iraq to Astar Abad that quickly? We only had, horses and camels at the time. He knew it was his Imam, so he's a true Imam. He went, traveled, and sure enough, he entered the city in the morning. Today, of course, with GPS, we can pinpoint to the minute when we reach our destination, right? But back then, you can estimate probably 2 or 3 days a week when you're going to enter a town. The Imam alayhi salam told him exactly when he would enter. He entered the city, gathered the Shias around and told them, get ready and prepare your questions, prepare your needs, anything that you need from the Imam alayhi salam. He's coming to visit us. They gathered in a house of one of the notable Shias there, and they were sitting there, and sure enough, the Imam alayhi salam comes walking in. He starts by saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. They say, Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And they sit down. They had no doubt that the Imam alayhi salam was able to do what is called Tayyul Ard, which is the ability to travel across time and large distances, like Imam Ali alayhi salam did. All the Imams alayhi salam do. For instance, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam goes to Hajj every year. I assure you he doesn't take an airplane. In fact, many of our scholars have that knowledge where they can travel. That knowledge is mentioned in the Quran in the story of Sulaiman, where he wanted to get the throne of the Queen of Sheba in front of him. And there was a jinn who said, I can get it to you before you stand up. But the first Imam at the time of Sulaiman alayhi salam, he said, I can get it to you before you can take your either before you can blink or before you can take your abba and bring it on your shoulder. So a human being was able to go and get the throne, which I would imagine was massive, and bring it to Sulaiman alayhi salam in a blink of an eye. That knowledge, the Imams alayhi salam had it, and Imam Askari alayhi salam had it, and that's why he was able to travel from Samarra to Astar Abad in a blink of an eye and go and visit with his Shias. People started asking him questions. One of the Shias, it's a long story, it's a beautiful story actually. One of the Shias asked the Imam, he said, Imam, he said, I have a boy, a son, who lost his eyesight a month ago. And he said, can you give me some dua, or can you make dua for my son? The Imam alayhi salam said, go. He said to him, go get him. He went and got him, and the Imam alayhi salam made dua for him, and the boy started seeing again. So all the miracles that the previous prophets had, the Imams alayhi salam performed, every single one of them. And this is one of them. Isa alayhi salam used to cure the blind. Our Imams alayhi salam cured the blind. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, in a very famous story where a man came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, one of his companions said, Ya Rasulullah, I have been blind. I was born blind. Ya Rasulullah, I would like to see. So the Prophet said, give him a dua that we have. That dua, we have it. And anybody who wants it, ask Sayyid Kadhim, I'll give it to him. And so the companion did the dua and he started seeing. And he was describing how he saw the mountains, he saw, I imagine it's a desert, but he saw the trees, he saw people for the first time, and the Prophet told him, he said, you can have your eyesight and live with it until you die, and then be judged like everybody else. Or you can lose your eyesight again, and I guarantee you that you will be with me in paradise for being patient. And the companion said, Ya Rasulullah, I'd rather be with you. And he lost his eyesight. So this seeing, curing, bringing the dead back to life is something that all prophets did. I know that, because of the dominance of Christianity in the world, people tend to think that it's Prophet Isa alayhi salam who did that alone. And of course, indeed, it was one of the miracles of Isa alayhi salam. But we read the Quran. The Quran tells us that when Ibrahim asked Allah to show him how to bring the dead back to life, Allah told him, take 4 birds, cut them up, put them in 4 different mountains, call them to you, they come to life. The other story is of Musa alayhi salam, of course. Musa alayhi salam, in the famous story of the yellow cow, there was a young man, a Jewish man, who was murdered, and people came to Musa and they said, who killed him? Musa alayhi salam asked Allah to show them, and we know the story of the yellow cow where finally they killed the cow, they took the tail of the cow, they hit the dead person with it, and he came back to life. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought a dead young man back to life to talk to him and ask him, what did you see? Tell us. So these stories are common, and the story with Imam Ali alayhi salam, where one of his Shias, and I'll wrap it up here quickly inshallah, one of his Shias was accused of stealing something, and indeed he did. One of his companions during his Khilafah. So they brought him to the Imam, and the Imam went through the process, not the process that ISIS or Saudi Arabia shows you. It's a very extensive process, but we don't have time to talk about today. But finally the Imam alayhi salam said, okay, I'll cut up your 4 fingers. And he did. And so people who were ill in their hearts came to him and said, you follow Ali and look what he did to you. So the man said, Alhamdulillah, he did that to me. I deserved it. And with the cutting off of my fingers, Allah forgave all my sins. So they went to Imam Ali alayhi salam, the same people, the ones who create fitna, they create chaos and mischief between people, and they said, oh, Ali, this guy who follows you, you cut off his fingers. We told him that you cut off his fingers, he shouldn't like you, and he said, no, I don't care. I love Imam Ali, no matter what he does to me. So Imam Ali alayhi salam said a very famous statement. He said, if I strike a believer on his nose with my sword, imagine, if I strike a believer on his nose with my sword, he would do nothing but love me. And he said, if I give the hypocrite whatever he wants, I'm loosely translating this, he said he would have absolutely nothing but to hate me. He said, for the Prophet told me something that will never be changed, and that is nobody will love you, Ali, except a pure believer. And a hypocrite or an illegitimate child cannot love you no matter how much they try. And so what Imam alayhi salam did is he went and gathered the fingers of this man and he put them back and he made a little dua and his hand was completely cured. So when Imam Askari alayhi salam did that, that's common for the Imams alayhi salam. And the other and final miracle is or story which shows you that knowledge of the Imam alayhi salam was during the time of the Imam when he was in jail, in prison. There was a famine, there was a drought. So the Muslims, the Sunnis got together and they made dua, they prayed. There is a certain prayer for drought, and nothing would happen. And one day the bishop of the Christians came to the Abbasid ruler. He said, let me try. He said, give us a chance. He said, sure. So the bishop came out with the Christians and he put his hand up, and sure enough it started raining. So the Muslims said, wait a minute, something was wrong here. We thought we were on the right path. Why doesn't Allah answer us and He answered this man? So there was a lot of doubt, a lot of panic. One of the ministers of the Abbasid Caliph said, the answer is with that young man that you have imprisoned. He said, get him out and ask him what the deal is. So they did. They went and got Imam Askari alayhi salam out, and they said, what's the story? He said, no problem. Just ask the bishop to come out and we're going to pray to Allah for rain. But he said, I want to go side by side with the bishop. As they went side by side with the bishop put his hands up to start praying, And the Imam alayhi salam reaches to his hand and opens it up, and he finds a bone, a human bone. And the Imam alayhi salam takes the human bone out of his hand, and he said, "You found a bone of a prophet that you dug out of his grave, and you put it up with your hand, and no matter who holds it up and makes dua with it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer their prayer." He said, "Go ahead and answer and pray right now for rain." And the bishop prayed, and no rain came. The Imam alayhi salam ordered one of his companions to take the bone and bury it, and the Imam alayhi salam prayed for rain and started pouring. So the Imams alayhi salam defended Islam even when they were accused, even when they were imprisoned, and they would never stop or prevent their wisdom from being imparted on people. The Imams alayhi salam are a great blessing for us. Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam knew exactly who he wanted to marry, and he was waiting for a slave shipment, basically, because the tyrants of the time, they used to go and buy slaves from Europe, from Europeans who would capture other Europeans and sell them. So these guys captured, these set of Europeans captured some other Europeans. One of them was Narjis, who was a descendant of Sam'an al-Safa, Saint Peter alayhi salam. And the Imam explained specifically why he wanted to free that woman and marry her. Because he said, because she's a descendant of the first Imam of Isa alayhi salam, and that his child and her child would be the person who will bring peace and harmony in the world, and that Isa alayhi salam would be with him in that mission. So it was a very thoughtful something that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed that knowledge down unto him to do. So our Imams alayhi salam are a big blessing for us. Insha'Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will gather us with them. We should always read about them, study about them. We should always try to understand why the Imams alayhi salam do what they do. And one of the takeaways that I would like, if you would be so kind, I'd like you to do is look in the stories of the Imams alayhim salam for miracles, and find those miracles in the stories of the prophets, or vice versa. You'll always find them. والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أحسنت Abu Muhammad. Inshallah, next time the live stream is on, but video is not showing up. I don't know what's the reason, and I don't want to play around with it now. But the audio is there, and I sent it to Ahmad to distribute, so I don't know how many people apply. But it really looks good. You like this? So Abu Muhammad, you're there now. Inshallah, we'll work with your schedule and see how often you can do this, inshallah.
Inshallah. And next time, inshallah, I'll come in person and do this.
Inshallah. Thank you very much. Jazakallah.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. So inshallah, we'll continue with Dua Kumail, inshallah. Let me turn it on the system.
So what is the dua that he was talking about, Qazi? For the site. He said, ask Qazi Mehdi, didn't he say?
Said Qazi.
Which Qazi?
Said Qazi.
You said
Qazi Nabi al-Nabi.
Oh.
No, he's talking about me.
Baba.
We'll work, inshallah.
Yes.
So coming?
Oh, you. The message was true because the prophets did it already. Now to maintain it.
There's a guy on YouTube, he said his name Ashraf Ali, he's a Sunni Muslim, tries to mock Shias. He asks this question.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا دائم الفضل على البرية، يا باسط اليدين بالعطية، يا صاحب المواهب السنية، صل على محمد وآله خير الورى سجية. واغفر لنا يا ذا العلا في هذه العشية. الصلوات.